Your phone lights up, you see the name, you know exactly what they want. You set it face down and go back to whatever you were doing. No guilt, no anxiety, just quiet. And the quiet feels good. 1 in 4 American adults reports feeling completely alone, disconnected, isolated. The Surgeon General calls it an epidemic. But you are the one who created the distance on purpose. You looked at your life, looked at the people in it, and started making cuts. And here is the part nobody talks about. You do not feel lonely. You feel free. So when did this start? When did you become someone who walks away and does not look back? You were not always this way. There was a time when you were the one everyone counted on, the friend who answered the phone no matter what time it was, the family member who kept things together when everything else was falling apart, the person who listened, absorbed, held space for everyone else's chaos. You were reliable, dependable, always there. You heard the same problems over and over, gave the same advice, watched them ignore it, and then they came back, and you answered again. Until one day you did not. You let it ring, and nothing broke. The world kept turning. It just got quieter, and that quiet felt like the first real breath you had taken in years. That moment was not a flaw. It was not coldness. It was not selfishness. Your brain was doing exactly what it was built to do. Psychologists have a name for what happened. Dr. Stephen Porges developed something called the Polyvagal Theory. The idea is that your nervous system is not just one thing. It operates in different states depending on how safe it feels. When you have spent years absorbing other people's needs, when you have given more than you have received too many times, your nervous system stops waiting for your permission to protect you. It shifts. It moves from what researchers call social engagement mode into something called the dorsal vagal response. In simple terms, shutdown, withdrawal, conservation of energy. Not because something is wrong with you, because your nervous system recognized a pattern and responded to it. It started treating people like a resource drain. Because for a long time, that is exactly what they were. But here is the deeper question. Where did your nervous system learn that in the first place? For most people who cut others off, the answer is not recent. It goes back further. Maybe you grew up in a home where the atmosphere changed the moment someone walked through the door. Maybe you learned to read the room before you could read a book, to sense tension before anyone said a word, to make yourself small so someone else could feel big. Psychologist Murray Bowen called this pattern emotional cutoff. It is what develops when a child discovers that closeness has a price, that people who love you can also be the people who destabilize you. So you adapted. You learned that the safest place was often the one you created alone. And now as an adult, when someone starts to get too close, that old system activates. It is not a character flaw. It is a survival map your younger self drew. And for a long time it worked. But here is where it gets more complicated. Because there is a real difference between protecting yourself and sealing yourself off from everyone. Here is the honest part. Not all distance is the same. The Centers for Disease Control found that prolonged isolation increases the risk of heart disease by 29% and stroke by 32%. That is not just emotional. That is your body keeping score. But here is what that data does not capture. Being surrounded by the wrong people carries its own biological cost. Chronic stress, elevated cortisol, nervous system dysregulation that never fully resolves. So the question is not whether connection matters. It does. The question is what kind of connection, and with whom. There is a difference between walls and boundaries. Walls are built from fear. They block everyone. The people who would hurt you and the people who would not. Boundaries are built from awareness. They are selective. They are not about keeping everyone out. They are about being intentional about who gets in. If you cut someone off and felt relief, that is information. If you stopped answering someone and your chest unclenched, that is data your body is giving you. That is not isolation, that is discernment. And discernment is one of the rarest things a person can develop. And here is something fascinating about people who do this. You do not cut people off at random. You do it because you have become extraordinarily good at reading patterns. That person who only reaches out when something has gone wrong for them. You notice that by the second month. That family member whose support always comes attached to a condition. You learned their rhythm years ago. That person who floods you with warmth and then vanishes without explanation. You recognize the cycle before it completed itself. A 2023 study published in Nature Neuroscience found that people who experienced early emotional stress showed heightened activity in the brain regions responsible for detecting threat. In other words, your brain did not get damaged by what you went through. It got sharper. Researchers at the University of Iowa found that the frontal lobe, the area responsible for complex social reasoning, works at a higher level in people with this background. You are not paranoid. You are not too sensitive. You are processing social information at a depth that most people never reach. That instinct you have when something feels off about a person, that is not anxiety. That is thousands of hours of pattern recognition condensed into a feeling, and you have learned to trust it. So no, you are not broken. You are not cold. You are selective. And there is a word for what you have actually built. Society has a label for people like you: antisocial, withdrawn, isolated. But all of those words assume something is missing. They assume that quantity equals health, that a full calendar means a full life. Here is a different word: solitude. Loneliness is wanting connection and not having it. Solitude is having peace and choosing it. You are not sitting alone wishing the phone would ring. You are sitting in the quiet you built and feeling something close to relief. Your space feels like yours. Your energy feels like yours. Your thoughts are no longer interrupted by someone else's emergency. The people who do not understand will tell you that you are running from something. But you know what is actually true. You are not running away. You are running toward something, toward a version of yourself that only exists when the noise stops, toward clarity, toward peace that is not contingent on anyone else's mood or behavior. That is not avoidance. That is sanctuary. And if you are watching this right now wondering whether something is wrong with you, I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not heartless. You are not incapable of connection. You are not damaged beyond repair. You are someone who learned through experience that not everyone deserves access to your energy. And instead of letting that lesson harden you into bitterness, you made a different choice. You chose to protect what was left, to guard the parts of yourself that still felt intact, to build something quiet and safe and genuinely yours. That is not weakness. That is one of the most quietly powerful things a person can do. And if you need one more piece of evidence that you are not doing this wrong, consider this. Harvard's longest-running study on adult happiness, 75 years of data, found that the single greatest predictor of well-being was not wealth, not status, not the size of someone's social circle. It was the quality of their relationships, not how many, how real. If your circle is small and the people in it actually show up, you are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. You are not broken. You are not alone in feeling this way. You are just someone who stopped settling for connections that cost more than they gave. And if that resonates with you, I would love for you to subscribe. There is more to explore about how your mind works. I will see you in the next one.